Welcome to InfoHub Extended. The coalition government has been advancing towards the full realization of its manifesto promises in several sectors. Growth is evident as the government enters its third year in office. In this edition of InfoHub Extended, we give you an overview of these achievements.
Since coming into office, the coalition government has tirelessly worked to transform the lives of the working class in Guyana. Some impressive achievements and successes have been recorded in this regard. The minimum wage increased by over 50%, income tax threshold increased by 20%, old age pension increased by 49%, VAT reduced from 16 to 14%, more items are VAT-free, and the Public Service Appellate Tribunal reconstituted. The establishment of the Bertram Collins College was a vision of the coalition government before its assumption to office, as President David Granger highlighted.
Public servants have to work very hard. They have to be educated enough to be able to advise their ministers. They must provide their ministers with the product of organized thought and research. They must bring their experience to bear on the way the ministry is administered. The ministers may change. Here today, gone in 5 years' time, but the public servant remains. That's why we call permanent secretaries. They're not temporary secretaries. So when a minister arrives in the ministry, he has to get the best advice from his permanent secretary and from the core of public servants he finds there. So they have to be educated if they are to provide correct advice to their ministers. They have to be experienced. Training in this college, therefore, is meant to inculcate those qualities in the public servants. They must be able to comprehend the complexities of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and the system of public administration at all three tiers of government. How central government works, how regional administration works, how municipal and local administration works. The public servant must be familiar with the financial and administrative regulations and rules that are common at all three levels. The public servant must also comprehend the diversity of the national landscape.
The Ministry of Social Protection has been spearheading efforts geared at empowering individuals, families, and communities. These efforts are designed to reduce poverty, protect children, eliminate violence, and to assist vulnerable groups in society. Minister of Social Protection Amna Ali in the National Assembly alluded to several of these transformational projects and programs.
To create an enabling welfare state, one which helps people to help themselves. Mr. Speaker, let me say that we will continue to work to give the unemployed youth the skills to find a decent job. We will give the single mother the support she needs to go out and work or start a small business. We will provide vulnerable persons such as our children, the elderly, the homeless, and victims of violence and trafficking with the right care and protection needed to better their lives. Mr. Speaker, with the multitudinous achievements of this ministry, I have absolutely no hesitation in saying that the coalition government stands at the center of many of these advances. These achievements did not come by chance. Our actions continue, and we will continue to be informed by the pledge we made to the people, by the goal that the coalition government has pursued since 2015, the objective of securing a better life for all.
Bridging the gaps between the coastline and hinterland is a priority of the coalition administration. Upon taking up office in 2015, President Granger, during the National Tushhouse Conference, presented a 10-point plan for hinterland development.
We want to ensure that every child in the hinterland has access to education. ECIS, that's our motto, every child in school. The Hinterland Education Support Program will therefore support the goal of keeping children in school by providing meals, providing uniforms, providing school books, providing transportation, and when they graduate, providing scholarships for them to attend secondary school. Secondly, I wish to explain and to support what Vice President Alicott said. On the 1st of September, we shall launch the Hinterland Employment and Youth Service. This will take the place of the YAEP. As you heard, the YAEP expired in April, and it was always our plan to set up a new scheme, and that scheme will be launched on the 1st of September. The Hinterland Youth Employment and Youth Service will provide sustainable jobs for our young people. We do not wish to promote a culture of handouts. This is demeaning. We will ensure that although jobs are scarce, young school leavers will be provided with the skills to employ them for the world of work. The economy has not provided employment opportunities for them. The former administration's hotspot responses to youth unemployment have been unsuccessful. We are going to ensure that through the Hinterland Youth Employment Program, young people who were employed as CSOs and who wish to join our program will be registered and will continue to receive their stipends. Young people are interested in permanency, not advocacy. They do not want to be placed on a hinterland dole. They want careers. They want technical and agricultural institutes in every region, not simply on the coastline. This Hinterland Youth Employment Program has been designed to replace the YAP, and we are assured that it will be a success.
The Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs has been supporting the development of Guyana's 215 indigenous communities. They have benefited from a range of community support initiatives, including presidential grants, the distribution of school uniforms, the construction of community centers, and more recently, extension to the Bina Hill Institute. Public health improvements under the coalition administration range from the upgrading of physical infrastructure of hospitals and health facilities, the provision of medical equipment, and the deployment of medical personnel across the administrative regions. Public Health Minister Valda Lawrence highlighted the government's vision.
We begin to ensure that persons within our household and our extended family are accessing our health facilities to ensure that things are okay with them. And not only access it when there is an issue. We want that to become the norm for the Guyanese family. We want to ensure that when a person from a household visits the health center, that that person is taking along the rest of the family for their general checkup on a yearly basis. And we believe that through this medium, we can help our fellow Guyanese and the visitors to become more health conscious, to take the responsibility to take care of their own health. It begins with each and every one of us. And lastly, in terms of our vision, we want to remind all of our people that they are living in a country that is blessed with an abundance of healthy foods. We have several varieties of fruits and vegetables and legumes that, if used as opposed to what you get in the box and what you get in the can and what you get out of the fast foods, that you can live not only a long life, but you can live a long and healthy life.
Recognizing the important role that entrepreneurship and in turn the private sector plays in generating employment and income, the coalition government has strengthened the fabric of micro and small businesses, especially those owned by vulnerable groups, through the alleviation of prohibitive constraints. Reducing the processing time for investment agreements, implementing a trusted trader program, establishing business registration hubs in Regions 8 and 9, and establishing the $100 million revolving fund to help entrepreneurs are just a few of these developments. In preparation for forest oil, the coalition government has been proactive in its approach to this emerging sector, so as to ensure that all mechanisms necessary for the effective management and the best outcomes for its people are in place even before the first barrel of oil is sold. A suite of legislation is being completed to safeguard the sector, including the National Oil and Gas Upstream Policy, Local Content Policy, Petroleum Exploration and Production Legislation and Regulations, Petroleum Commission legislation, the Sovereign Wealth Fund legislation. Capacity building of the local stakeholders on the issues and challenges surrounding the sector form a crucial aspect of preparation.
You know, we are on a fast-paced approach because Exxon had said to us that they can develop this resource in 5 or under years or under, and so by 2020 we hope to start producing, and so some fundamentals have to be put in place. There's the fiscal and taxation side of it, which is the responsibility of the Minister of Finance. He's working overtime. I know with his staff, both at the Ministry, GRA, Bureau of Statistics, they're working to boost capacity, and we're getting support from international agencies. Minister of Public Infrastructure is working to ensure that roads and bridges and onshore infrastructure is in place, that the boats and vessels that are coming into our waters, that's Mara, that's under him as well, that both Tamari and Ogle will be ready for 2020. That's a lot of work. It's happening. The Ministry of Business, another important ministry, to ensure that local content, that means that Guyanese individuals, partnerships, business, big companies have a stake, have a say in this, and so I know much work is happening there.
Over the time the coalition has been in office, the country's network of airdromes, including 30 in the hinterland, bridges, roads, stellings and wharves have been improved. The 4-lane extension of the East Bank Demerara Public Road was completed, over 100 kilometers of village roads have been constructed or repaired, and 4 pedestrian overpasses installed across the East Bank Demerara Public Road. The Kitty Roundabout is operational, and the US $138 million expansion of the Chedi Jagan International Airport closer to completion, with a recent tour conducted by several members of parliament. In public security, the government has embarked on a process of reform and is revamping the national security architecture with the completion of the National Drug Strategy Master Plan, the National Anti-Narcotics Agency established. The country's archaic and dilapidated prisons are being refashioned to ensure safety and compliance with internationally acceptable standards, and the Ministry of Public Security is retooling the Guyana Police Force in order to improve human safety and public security. Over the past 3 years, the Ministry of Public Telecommunications has been strengthening the regulatory framework of the information and communications technology sector, digitizing education and establishing ICT hubs. Thus far, close to 100 ICT hubs established across the country, a 5-year project designed to take internet and government's e-services to the hinterland, poor and remote communities. Spearheading the expansion of the national e-government fiber optic network from Charity to Skeldon to inland areas, commencing a national broadband expansion project, and collaborated with ministries and government agencies to make public services available online. Minister Catherine Hughes is leading the ICT advancement in Guyana.
We believe that with the use of technology, you improve your deliverables, you are able to improve performance levels, you are able to communicate and connect people. So it's huge opportunities for information, for also educating people, and of course, entrepreneurial activities.
When the coalition government administration took office in May 2015, Guyana had been blacklisted both by the CFATF and the international body, the Financial Action Task Force. However, the efforts of the government, particularly that of the Attorney General's chambers, led to Guyana exiting that process in record time. Further, the Ministry of Legal Affairs strengthened the financial regulatory framework of the country, protecting the economy from the proceeds of illicit activities. Legislation passed and adopted include the Anti-Money Laundering and Countering the Financing of Terrorism Amendment Act 2015, the State Asset Recovery Act, the Protected Disclosures Act, and the Witness Protection Act. To fight corruption and the illicit drug trade, the State Assets Recovery Unit was set up. The Special Organized Crime Unit became operational. The country successfully hosted the 46th CFATF conference. Guyana assumed chairmanship of CFATF and head of the CFATF Forum for Heads of the FIUs, and more recently successfully hosted the CFATF Judges and Prosecutors Conference. The government is determined to give more autonomy to the regions by having local officials play a greater role in managing their own affairs. Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan said obstruction from some quarters will not stifle the process.
Our ministry is charged with the delivery of a community experience and not just the provision of a house lot. The strategic amalgamation of what were formerly two ministries whose services impacts on the quality of lives, namely the Ministry of Housing and Water and the Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, those being the former ministries, into what is now a single ministry, is an indication of the government's intent to realize this vision of improving the condition under which our people live. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to state that it is not just the development of housing areas and discharging the duty I alluded to earlier. The issue of governance, and if I may add, good governance, cannot be divorced from the developmental process. To ensure the sustainability and further development of these areas in accordance with the overarching vision, it is impossible for good governance to be overstated. It is neither constitutionally nor legislatively, nor is it the policy direction that such governance emanates from an office in 4th Street, Kingston, or for that matter, on Brick Dam in Georgetown. This administration resolutely believes in the principle that governance decisions should be made as close as possible to the people who are affected by them. As His Excellency puts it simply, and again I quote, "You live in the house. You know where it leaks. You wear the shoes. You know where it pinches." End of quote. It therefore goes without saying that these 4 housing areas located within the jurisdiction of a township, of whose democratic credentials are intact, that they ought to be managed and developed by that very organ.
This brings us to the end of another program of InfoHub Extended. Thanks for watching. Do join us again.